time for your sleep story. This is Johnny Midnight. It's my privilege to be the voice you drift off to tonight. Now, many of you, if not all, love animals. As a lot of you know, I've got a little dog I love dearly. In fact, he's right here in the studio with me as I'm recording this. By hearing some of your suggestions and talking with my wife, Rebecca, I prepared a simple tale about a man and his dog, and how that dog really brightens the old man's life. Hope you enjoy listening to it. If you want this video to end at a particular spot, YouTube lets you set a timer in the settings. And don't forget to disable autoplay to avoid those pesky ads from upcoming videos. As I spin tonight's sleep story, there once was an old man who lived about 100 years ago in a truly charming city. One of those places folks always wanted to visit for its museums and grand art. He'd moved there in his youth for precisely that reason, to create, to find that creative spark within him. And he did, for sure. He became a great artist, had great loves, a grand life as a creator, living every second to the fullest. He was kind and generous, giving to so many, much sought after in the community, not just for his art or his money, but for the spirit he brought. But as time marched on, the people he loved moved on or passed away, and gradually, the man felt less like living the full life he once had. He no longer went to the galleries, the cinema, the cafes, or engaged with the community. He just stayed inside, doing very little. The only time he left the house was to pop to the local corner store for essentials, and even that felt like a huge chore. He didn't want to see anybody, and he didn't want anybody to see him. Years drifted by like this, and the man had resigned himself to this existence, accepting that the best of his life was behind him. The city's vibrancy, with its constant flow of carriages and murmurs of passers-by, had become an echo of a life he once knew. The walls of his grand apartment, adorned with paintings and sketches, were now just remnants of his passionate youth, where each brushstroke and dab of color were living testaments to his creative spirit. But he hardly looked at them now. Most of the time he felt unable to. Then, on a particularly crisp winter evening, as the man trudged his way back from the store, his coat buttoned high against the cold, he felt the weight of his solitude even more profoundly. He was, as usual, avoiding eye contact with everyone. The gas lamps above cast a gentle glow on the cobbled streets, and in that glow, something very much caught his eye, and it was looking right back at him. It was a little dog. This little dog, with a coat as white as snow, was quite the contrast to the tall, gray-haired elderly man. The dog had such youth, and the old man had so little. The dog sat quietly by the side of the street, watching the old man with gentle curiosity. As the man approached, the dog wagged its tail softly, a friendly gesture in the chilly evening air. The man, who had long forgotten the simple joy of an unexpected encounter, paused. His heart was touched by the dog's presence. Curiosity piqued, the man knelt down, extending a cautious hand toward the dog. In response, the dog nuzzled into his palm, its warmth and affection breaking through years of solitude. The man felt a forgotten sensation stir within him, a sense of connection to another living being. Hesitantly, he looked around, half expecting the dog's owner to appear. But the street was empty, and it seemed as if the dog had appeared just for him. Over the next few days, the man found himself looking forward to his brief trips to the corner store, secretly hoping to encounter the little white dog. Like clockwork, the dog was there each evening, its tail wagging in recognition. The man even started bringing treats, savoring the few moments of companionship that filled a void he hadn't quite realized was so deep, or even existed. The man began to toy toy with the idea of letting the dog come and live with him. He had more than enough room in his apartment and could use the company. It really seemed the dog was unattended and probably had no home. But each evening, the more reasonable part of him would win out, and he would quietly bid good night to the little dog under his breath and climb the steps to his apartment. And each night, when he got back inside, the apartment started to feel even bigger and emptier than normal. And each night, as he settled into his routine, he started to hear a whimpering sound from below his window, and each night it grew louder. And each night he would pull back the heavy velvet curtain, and there, below his window, sat the little dog, its eyes looking up with a sense of longing and hope. The sight tugged at the man's heart, and on one particularly cold night, as he looked down on the dog, its small frame shivering slightly in the cold night air, he couldn't ignore the call any longer, and so the man descended the stairs of his apartment, his heart leading him toward a decision that reason alone couldn't dictate. Opening the front door, he found the little dog still waiting, its eyes gleaming in the faint light. "Well, it seems we are both in need of a friend," the man said, a gentle smile breaking through his usually reserved demeanor. Stepped aside, inviting the dog into his home and into his life. First night the dog stayed in the house was like entering a different world. For the little animal, it had indeed grown up on the streets. It became clearer to the old man once he got the dog inside that it immediately needed a bath. He filled a basin with warm water and gently coaxed the dog towards it. The dog, hesitant at first, eventually trusted the man's gentle demeanor and allowed itself to be lifted into the basin. As the man carefully bathed the dog, washing away layers of street grime, he spoke softly to the animal, offering words of comfort. The dog relaxed under his touch, its initial apprehension giving way to enjoyment. The water turned murky, but as it was rinsed away, the dog's true coat of whiter than white was revealed. To the bath, the man dried the dog with a soft towel, marveling to himself at how such a simple act of care could be so fulfilling. The dog, now clean and dry, looked up at him with bright, grateful eyes. It was as if in that moment an unspoken bond was forged between them, the beginning of a companionship that promised to fill the void in both their lives. At night, as they both settled in for bed, the dog found a cozy spot at the foot of the man's bed. The old man, watching the dog drift into a peaceful sleep, felt a sense of contentment he hadn't experienced in years. The presence of the little dog brought a new energy to the apartment, a living warmth that seemed to seep into its very walls. The man had never had a dog before. In fact, he had never really understood the connection between humans and dogs. But for the first time in a very long time, the man was falling asleep with a smile on his face, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The next day, the man felt a new burst of energy, and after a simple breakfast, he made a list of necessities for his newfound companion. A collar and leash were at the top, followed by nutritious food, a comfortable bed, and a few toys. Wearing his coat and hat, the man stepped out onto the bustling streets, the dog trotting happily by his side. "Maybe I won't need that leash," the man thought to himself. "The dog walks with me everywhere." The city, which had once felt so overwhelming and indifferent, now seemed alive with possibilities. People he passed smiled at the sight of the cheerful little dog, some stopping to pet him, striking up conversations with Mr. Joe, interactions that would have been unthinkable just days ago. Their first stop was a small pet shop. The shopkeeper was a jovial man with a love for all creatures, and he helped the man choose a sturdy collar and a leash just in case, along with a few other essentials. As he shopped, the man felt a sense of belonging, of being part of the world again. The dog, meanwhile, seemed to relish the attention it received from the shopkeeper and other customers. Later, as they walked through a nearby park, the man watched the dog exploring the new environment with wide-eyed wonder. Children playing nearby were drawn to the friendly animal, their laughter filling the air, a sound the man realized he had missed dearly. Watching the dog interact with the world around him, the man felt his own perspective broaden, and a newfound appreciation for the simple joys of life awakening within him. The man even ran into people he hadn't seen in years, people who, in fact, made him feel quite emotional. They brought back memories of times long past, and for the first time in a long time, he felt grateful for those times, not filled with longing for them to return nor regret, but grateful that he lived those times. A sense of acceptance started to descend over him as he sat and talked with these old friends on this crisp, clear, beautiful winter's day. As he walked home with the little dog after planning to meet with those friends again soon, the man breathed in the world in a different way. He saw the little joys that are there for us all to see whenever we want to see them. He saw other human beings with fresh eyes. He saw what might look like just mundane things in an entirely different light. The miracle of existence was enough to put a smile on his face this day. He noticed the beautiful buildings around him. Instead of looking down, he now looked up. He saw ornate features on buildings he hadn't seen in years. The craftsmanship of people made him think of his own art. He saw the horses moving through the streets. He saw the newly invented automobiles appearing now and again and marveled at such an invention. He saw people laughing, people crying, people hugging, people smiling, people shouting, people loving, and he was amazed at how rich life can be when you open your eyes to it. And the thought came across him that it never hurts to have a little friend helping you along. As the day came to an end, the man and the dog returned home. The man set up a cozy corner for his companion, complete with a soft bed and toys. The little white dog, now officially a part of his life, settled into his new home with ease. There was only one thing left. As the man sat in his armchair, watching the little dog with a contented heart, he realized he hadn't given the dog a name. And so the man thought it appropriate that he should call the dog after someone else who had given him great joy, his favorite artist of all time, Oreo Monet. And so it was that on that winter's day, Joe called his dog Oreo Dotmer. Joe and Oreo sat by a crackling, comforting fire. Joe read his book, and Oreo snuggled on the rug by the fire. The presence of the little dog by his side brought such a newfound warmth to this familiar activity of reading the book, a classic novel he had been slowly making his way through. Seemed more engaging now. The words on the page came alive, as if the quiet companionship of the dog had somehow enriched the experience. He found himself chuckling at the humorous parts and reflecting more deeply on the poignant ones. Every now and then he would glance down at the dog, who would look back at him with a sort of understanding, as if it too was part of the story. This simple act of sharing space with another living being, even in silence, brought a sense of fulfillment that had been missing from his life. Mr. Joe also noticed that his meals tasted better, the music he occasionally played sounded sweeter, and even the air in his apartment felt fresher. The dog's presence had brought a new energy into his home, turning mundane moments into small occasions of joy in the days that followed. Mr. Joe began to revive old hobbies he had long set aside. He took out his paintbrushes and canvases. He was inspired to capture the world around him once again. The dog would sit patiently by his side, watching as colors and shapes took life on the canvas. It was as if the little dog had not only opened the door back to the world for him, had awakened his entire creative spirit, and each night, as Mr. Joe prepared for bed, the dog following him to the bedroom, he realized that he was looking forward to the next day of feeling he hadn't experienced in a long time. With the dog curled up at the foot of his bed in its own little bed, Mr. Joe would turn off the light, a gentle smile on his lips, and in the quiet of the night, he understood that life, which had once felt like it was winding down, was now opening new chapters, filled with possibilities and the friendship of a little dog.